All right, folks from History 112. This time we're talking about Unit 3. We're talking about the Enlightenment. We're talking about the French Revolution. You have to realize those kind of go hand in hand together. And so the document I picked out for you to look at is pretty significant. It is the Declaration of the Rights of Man, the 1789 version. What's important about this is, well, what it says and what it does. This is the reaction of the people. This is a reaction of the assembly itself um, to two things. It's a reaction to the absolutism and the overindulgence, that extends from Louis XIV, obviously, into 15th and 16th, the overindulgence of the French monarchy and the French nobility. Um, It is the overtaxation of the small group of French people. And I say small because it's a select group. It's the farmers, which is actually the largest group. Because when you start to look at the way that the government is set up in France, there's three groups in the assembly itself. You look at the royalty, you look at the royalty nobility, you look at the church, and you look at the last body, which is the common people. And unfortunately, the common people are the ones that carry the weight, the ones that carry the tax burden, the ones that carry so much trouble, and will go ahead and they own a very small percentage of the land versus what the nobles and the church owns. We have the Enlightenment pop up, and the Enlightenment is going to be mixed with the Age of Reason. And the Age of Reason is going to be about science, it's going to be about discovery, it's going to be about realizing that there's a different approach to thinking. And that approach, in some cases, is going to leave church reasoning behind. It's going to leave church thought and taught behind in a way and allow people to approach thinking in a different manner. And some of that different manner is going to be what is becoming the Enlightenment. You'll see the introduction of philosophers, right? Philosophers. You'll see the introduction of folks like John Locke. And John Locke is important because he's going to write the two treatises on government. He's going to introduce the idea of natural rights, that when you're born, every person is relatively, well, supposed to be equal, and they have the same natural born rights of life, liberty, and property. Very much you should recognize that phrase via Thomas Jefferson and his document that he writes. He's going to borrow from Locke. Well, this document, the rights of man, is going to be after Jefferson. It's going to be after Locke. It's going to borrow from both of them. And Jefferson has direct influence here. Okay, Jefferson is very much on the scene. He's very much an ambassador for the U.S. in France at this particular point. So he's got a direct influence. So when you read that, you should be seeing the Declaration of Independence. But it goes one step further, and I want you to realize that because within it, it's also going to incorporate elements of the Bill of Rights that is dated long after the Declaration of Independence. It's going to have elements of the Constitution built into it because it helps to define government. It helps to establish the idea that there should be different branches of government. It goes beyond just establishing that, listen, you've got these rights, but it says, look, there should be laws. And these laws should be decided on by the people, and the people, are the sole authority behind these laws. That the people are the ones that create these, and that the government creates them at the behest of the people. It also says, look, we're going to need a military. We're going to need a military authority to go ahead and once the will of the people is divined, that this military is going to be the law, the arm that is going to implement the will of the people and guarantee the rights. And the rights and responsibilities of these people are huge. I like that it also points out that, listen, if we're going to have law, we're going to have a military, we're going to have enforcement, then everyone is going to have to contribute. Everyone is going to have to do their part, which means there's going to be a maintenance charge. So it's already talking about the necessity of paying taxes. What I think is interesting, it is outlines not just everyone has the right to free speech, everyone has the right to expression, but it also talks about where your rights start and where other people's rights start and yours end, where they start to infringe upon others, when they start to harm others. And if what you're saying and what you're doing and exercising your rights is not harming others, well, then they're fine. And so I like what the document lays out. And you have to realize that this document is really part of a reaction to the excesses of the age of absolutism, to that ironclad control that Louis XIV puts into play, and from there it just blows out of proportion. This is that reaction. This is also enabled. It's enabled by the American Revolution. It's enabled by Marquis de Lafayette and his involvement in the American Revolution. The idea that the Americans, with help, can throw off the British monarch. Perhaps that they could exist without one. It brings to mind the fact here for the French that perhaps they can do the same thing, and perhaps that they can achieve those same rights and in some cases responsibilities. And what this document does is it lays out so many of those rights and the responsibilities, and it spells them out, I think, more so than the American document does. I think what it is we're looking at the benefits of the American document. And if you look at 1789 and you weigh that against not just the Declaration of Independence, but you look at it versus the Articles of Confederation that didn't work so well for us, you look at it in comparison to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it's a combination between both of those, and so it's part of the learning process. The evolution that they have seen in the United States at this point, that they've seen other governments at this particular point. And so it's part of that learning curve. So I want you to look and compare it to the American documents. I want you to look and see, in some cases it's better, in some cases it's a little confusing, and in some cases it has the same issue that the Americans are going to have, because where it's talking about everyone being equal and everyone having the exact same rights, what gets implemented in the revolution doesn't quite turn out that way. The idea that you have free speech and free speech is protected, when you get to the bloody days of the revolution, when you get to the terror of the revolution, that doesn't quite hold up. So it's a good document to begin, but again, just like the American version, it's hard to really get it to bear the weight that it needs to. All right, I'm going to cut you off here and let you go ahead and look at the doc and get your review done.